Alright, so I wanted to do a 2020 video about airsoft pistols to assist in the training and conditioning and preparation for competitive shooting. Uh, the first competitive event that I'm addressing is what I would consider the most simplest and the most neutral when it comes to relating it to a realistic situation. And that is the steel challenge, because it gives you 5 targets. One of the targets is actually a stop plate to end the shoot, right? It gives you assorted distances, so forth, different size of targets, which are a round or a rectangular target. Um, in a civilian defensive situation, that might actually be the most targets that you may actually encounter from a pushing the limits of a realistic situation. Because for people inside of a car, right? If you look at the home invasion videos and where the owner has surveillance camera and for some reason uh, 4 guys jump out of a car, they go into the house trying to go in there and he defends himself because he has a surveillance system and he has the right tool to defend himself with in sufficient time to be prepared for the incident. That's the scenario that we can associate with being more familiar with in and also within law enforcement. If they do a traffic stop and there's a criminal entity in there that wants to escape and wants to assault the law enforcement officer when he's not ready, you'll have 4 people on average per car. Now, in the average defensive scenario that I've seen individuals be involved with, the average bullet count is 6 to 12. And when it comes to injury, that was the average. We're talking about being fired upon. Very seldomly you'll have, maybe only in law enforcement, a reload scenario, and that is against a defensible target, someone that is using cover and firing upon law enforcement. And of course, these large home invasions or vehicular ambushes in regards to attacking a vehicle that is known to have drugs or money. In that scenario, imagine yourself, middle of the day road rage event, or trapped surrounded by cars, and you see something like this occurring in front of you. So that's the reason why I picked the steel challenge for this. Now, I've done several steel challenge events already with my pistol, and also my kids shot for 2 years a steel challenge with 22, and I watched them. They didn't shoot last year, and they shot half of the year before. So it's kind of like totally of 2 years of events. All right, so with airsoft, you can get thousands of rounds put in. When it comes to muscle memory, it's critical for you to do dry fire drills, to develop the draw, the on target, the on sights, everything to be aligned just right. And to practice the movement, you utilize, the same dry fire drill practice. There are several options for this. Option one has always been airsoft because it came before, or just stationary dry fire with your pistol. But airsoft adds on a stimulus response for the dry fire practice training that you're doing. A very slight recoil, maybe a fifth of what a real firearm would give you. Now, the average BB on an airsoft gun is 6 millimeters. Guess what? 9mm pistol. So it's 1/3 of the size. Now, the average velocity of an airsoft pistol is going to be 350 feet per second. That's about 1/4 to 1/5 the velocity of your 9mm round. So with that in mind, and estimating the velocity and the distance for the targets that you can't cover entirely into a backyard, at least here in Florida, because mine measures 40 feet by 30 or 50 feet by 30, it would be too far away. I can't use the distance. So I downgraded everything down to 50% first of the distance for me to place the targets, and also 50% the size of the targets that I want to have. I already have the poles. I already have, I'm sorry. Yeah, 1/3 the size, 1/3 the speed, 1/3 the distance, was my first calculation for the Airsoft Steel Challenge setup that I want to have to prepare myself for the Real Steel Challenge event. I can sit in my backyard nearly every single day that I have off and set these targets up quickly, to shoot upon and set whatever stage, and do multiple repetitions of it, so that way I go through the motions, I go through the draw, I go through the fire, I go through the on target, to minimize it as much as possible, to eliminate every single element of my muscle memory and conditioning for the event before I put my hands on a real gun. Now, an observation from watching aimbot, they call them, from Nippon, or Japan, for those that don't know the real name. He shot for 3 years airsoft, never put his hands on a gun, and shot for 3 years with airsoft. And his speed when it comes to reloads, addressing malfunctions, on target, on everything, are right there, faster than the average shooter that was there with him. His only hang up was he didn't have the conditioning for the recoil management. That kind of slowed him down and made him cause more failures than the average person, because limp wristing. And also his aim, because of the recoil, was kind of off. I mean, we're talking that airsoft recoil is very minimal. And in his case, well, he was pretty much speeding up and hitting his targets. But because of the recoil anticipation, he had that problem. He was able to get over it, but he also, that flinch response was happening with him. So these are my target setups that I'm actually printed out from online. And here we go. This is Smoke and Hope, roundabout, speed option, 5 to go, pendulum, and accelerator. And there's the outer limits. I haven't done the calculation for the outer limits one. These are the 8 events that were shot at a Steel Challenge event, which some of the top shooters were there, of course. And I'm only missing Showdown. I printed these out before I saw the video, so Showdown was the only one. But it's kind of like obvious: rectangle, rectangle, circle, circle, center, stop, target. That's kind of like an easy setup. I do not have the rectangular targets. I only have the round targets, and I'm going to be using this for now. I have some PVC, some pipes that I'm going to stick in the ground and set these up. All right, see how it goes.